through a lot of the Duke Report today. And next up, we actually, in the green room here, have the great Tommy Carrigan, one of the Duke Report's featured journalists. So for those who are not aware, you can, of course, go here to the Duke Report. And George is also a featured journalist. I guess we didn't say that on your way in, George. Sorry. Of course, you are also a featured journalist here on the Duke Report. And Tommy Carrigan featured here on the Duke Report. And let's dive into Tommy's latest. So, hey, Tommy.
How you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing very good. How are you guys? I have terrible allergies and feel like shit. So I was just here to kind of check in to see that George is still alive. I thought George would have been. I thought you would have been killed by now. Talking about pandemics, small nuclear reactors. It's just every day I wake up and I'm like, he's still going. He's still going. It's like going double or nothing in a casino. You just keep doubling down. Have you ever done that? I remember
I've done that.
I was at a casino with one of my friends in 2014, and we were so shit-faced. We just wanted to leave, and we each took our like chips and put it all on red, and we won. We were like, shit. So we did it again, put it all on red, and it was some like mathematical and pop. Finally lost, and we were so happy. I kind of keep checking in on George. I'm like, well, he's over there. He's trying to go to the war zone. I'm like, wow, good Lord in heaven. He just keeps doubling down, tripling down. So, George, I'm happy that the chips are still stacking and that, knock on wood, you haven't been killed by the KGB yet.
Tommy, if you're tired, it's all right because you already did most of the heavy lifting here in your most recent post, which is featured on the Duke Report. It looks like you talked with, let me get this here, a Dr. Richard Fox, MD. They can't let the pandemic end. So let's click on this. Again, the Duke Report makes it easy for you, everyone. You just dive right in. Maybe I'll leave it on mute a little bit and let George and Peter comment.
You don't need to play them. They can go on. They're here to listen to George.
We're going to play. We're going to show it to the audience, but I'm going to leave it on mute so we can talk over it. But this is Dr. Richard Fox. This is your latest link on the Duke Report and your channel and everything. So give us a little wind down.
Yeah. Dr. Fox he's a badass guy. He's running for Congress out of California. The day before that, I had on General Flynn's brother and talked about election integrity, and that was really cool. And then 2 days before, I had on Dr. Malone again. I had on Bobby Ann Cox, a lawyer in New York, talking about legislation to start constructing medical detainment facilities in New York State and how they're authorizing the use of armed force to put people in there if they're suspected of having come in contact with a communicable disease. So on the one hand, it's material for a lot of great episodes. On the other hand, it just seems to be confirmation that we are indeed spiraling into a dystopian hellscape.
Yeah, and I watched the Bobby Ann Cox interview that Tommy had, and I was, first of all, she's great at what she's trying to do, but her, and I'll say this with caution, her naivete about the forces that she's up against. Like, she just saw this law and said, well, this is illegal, you can't do this, and she filed a lawsuit without realizing that she's basically going up against the bio-global takeover of the planet, and that she's going up against things that, Alex Jones has been screaming about for 20 years, and that, billions, if not trillions of dollars have been dedicated to kind of moving forward. And she's like this, little ant standing on the train track going, you can't do this. She's an interesting woman.
Well, I do commend her efforts. It's
100%.
Yeah, it kind of, it's like 6 months before Rogan had on Dr. Malone. It was like me with like 500 subscribers saying like the same thing, like, you can't do this. And like, sure, it's a lot of it's futile, but at the same time, it's like, if it is all over, might as well go out with two middle fingers.
Sure,
you might as well be the end. I get what you're saying too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not even suggesting that it's futile. It was curiously. I don't know. We all got into this. I got into this from George. right 5 years ago with the finger going around on the thumbnails, and I didn't have any idea about about Carol Quigley and the Round Table and the Council on Foreign Relations, the Rockefellers, and all of the other intrigues that have been basically shaping our time here on the planet. And so the more that you dig into it, the more that you realize, how much these forces are actually controlling things, then it changes the frame. It changes the way that you look at things. And one of the things that I think is really interesting, and George has been there and kind of witnessed a lot of this, is that a lot of the people that we run into are attorneys that are starting to figure out that things aren't exactly the way that they're laid out in the Constitution, that the rule of law might be closer to Santa Claus than actually the way that we live. And those people who have made law and order their business, they have a real hard time kind of getting their arms around what they're up against.
Mm. Well, yeah. I mean, my 5 years of tangling with the legal system is certainly one of, it's a way bigger monster than you are. And, your Polyphemus is the monster, and you must blind the monster to even have a chance. It's an Odysseus tale for sure. It's certainly of epic proportions that we have in front of us. But the great Peter Duke taught me the story clock paradigm, where no matter how much you're up against, you gather all the things you need from the 3 o'clock hour to the 9 o'clock hour so that you can win before the clock strikes midnight.
And you gather them in a bag called the Duke Report, and you bring them all together into one place where the public can link and learn. So let's head back to the Duke Report. I was thinking actually a little exercise. If you guys wanted, we could do like a Control F and do keywords. I could do like Ukraine or any other thing in the news and dive through that, or any other way you wanted to do the Duke Report.
I think just letting Tommy do jokes.
No, I was going to say, that was an incredible plug. The way you just maneuvered that, you put them all in a bag to the Duke Report.
There you go. So we're going through the Duke Report.
Just so that the audience understands, I created the Duke Report because so many of the sources of information that I use every day to try to figure out what's actually really going on in the world had been banned or kind of, blown off of whatever platform they were on. I just needed to collect them all in one place and try to figure out where they are. I did just notice, though, when I clicked on the last 10 stories for Tommy Carrigan that that link wasn't working. So I need to go now. Something on my list I got to go fix. Probably has something to do with Odyssey, but I did work on the Duke Report all weekend, though, because you might notice that the fonts are a little bit different, and we're trying to make it a little bit easier to read. We're trying to make it work better on mobile devices. To the extent that I'm not a software developer, and I'm trying to do this on whatever the meager funds are that I have to apply to it at this point. But I think that it's gotten significantly better over the weekend. And if you're looking at it on an iPhone or an iPad, it's going to be a lot easier for you to consume than it was before.
Oh, yeah.
George, we should do like roll the dice. George is up next. Who should we dive into next, George? What do you think? Ava Bartlett, Corbett Report, Caitlin Johnstone, Jimmy Dore. It's all here.
Well, let me talk about those two.
Yeah.
Let me talk about those two really quickly. One of the things that I see happening here in Ukraine is the great women reporters of the Syria Times. Obviously Sharina Shim dead, Shifa Gardi dead, but Vanessa Beeley not dead, Ava Bartlett not dead, and Ava is in Donbass, reporting things firsthand. So these great women of Syria, they're Syria reporting, the people that exposed the white helmets and Max Blumenthal and all that. They're getting it done again. They're, God bless them for getting in there and telling the truth. Ava Bartlett already just totally dismembered this whole, Russia mass graves bullshit story that they tried to put out. Just single-handedly, one woman just totally just eviscerated this, attempt at propaganda. So just Ava, I've had the great honor of talking with her recently and communicating with her recently. She's just an amazing individual. And from a distance, although I had a little tiny, run-in with Vanessa Beeley just through a misunderstanding in England, she's the queen bee, man. She's picking up Kolomoisky. So Vanessa Beeley, the great, incredible, super courageous woman who was in the basements of those buildings that were getting bombed.
Where do I find her, George? Vanessa Beeley?
Vanessa Beeley, Beeley, excuse me. She's based in the UK.
All right, well, we'll go find her. Should she be on the Duke Report?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Ava should be on there, and
Ava's on there. Yep, we just had Ava's link up.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to Ava. I'll stop talking. We'll go to the real.
Well, here's Vanessa, the queen bee, Vanessa Beeley, famous for her Syria war reporting, now picking up the Kolomoisky story. This is a breakthrough. So yeah, here is Vanessa Beeley.
This was like, Gonzo saying, Kolomoisky, Vanessa Beeley saying Kolomoisky is, like honey from the sky for me.
So yeah, I'm constantly adding things onto the Duke Report because I'm always finding these independent journalists that are winding. I'll watch somebody's show and they'll pull up a website or they'll do an interview with a journalist that I'd never heard of before, and I go and I dig into it and I find out, oh, this person's got a lot of great stuff. They need the support. So, like I said, the Duke Report is just kind of a clearinghouse for all this stuff. And, to the extent that we can manage it, we've got, 50 outlets or something on here. And trying to keep up with it every day is kind of like drinking water out of a fire hose because, because there are so many great people doing stuff out there in the world. But you don't find them all. You can't go to the New York Times and find it. You can't go to the Washington Post. You can't go to Breitbart and find this stuff because you're always going to find, whatever the echo chamber, for whatever bias that outlet is confirming. So the Duke Report kind of mixes it up. I got a lot of different voices, and if you really actually want to try to figure out what's going on, I think it's probably the best place.
So here, Peter, let's do this impromptu like a game. We'll let our guests take turns. George picked the last one. He picked Ava Bartlett. Tommy, you get to pick next. I'll just start reading the names. You tell me Corey Diggs, Covert Action, Ice Age Farmer, Mark Crispin, Free Thought Project.
I was gonna say
any other.
I was gonna say why Roe v. Wade and why now? Have you thought about? I know that's not on there. I don't know.
We'll find it. Someone will have it.
But I was thinking really with everything, it's just if COVID has not peeled your eyelids back, I don't know what will. But from Ukraine to how come all of a sudden they're all on one side to all of a sudden Elon Musk is the new orange man bad. I can't help but think why something as incendiary as Roe v. Wade and why now? Am I just looking too into it? Was this just going to happen eventually? Why?
Well,
now?
Can I weigh in on that?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So they think that Brett Kavanaugh is a leak. He's a handmaiden for any kind of surveillance that the deep state wants, right? So, but they are going to. I know this is hard for everybody to believe, but they're going to try to get rid of him. Sheldon Whitehouse, the senator, I believe, from Rhode Island. They're gonna take him down, and this is all about the fifth vote, the swing vote, and try to get him removed. And they can. And I predict Julie Swetnick will come out of the shadows. She was threatened to be a witness during the first confirmation hearings. Julie Swetnick, Q-level clearance with NIH, Drupal expert, will come out of the shadows to testify against Brett Kavanaugh, and he will be removed.
How so?
So let me ask you this, because George, you had a lot of I'll just call it high octane speculation to protect the channel. Early on about Brett Kavanaugh actually going to that Supreme Court high school, and about how they were running compromise operations, how the powers that be were running compromise operations on all of the kids that went to that school in order to be able to basically hold things over their head later on in life if they ever achieved things like being nominated to the Supreme Court. And there was a concerted effort, and I don't know if it was hair pulling in a school play, to use your parlance, but there was a lot of energy about not wanting to have him get approved to be on the Supreme Court. The arguments were that he was a Bushy, or that there were all kinds of other kind of political aspersions made against him. But if you looked at his political record, I mean, he didn't really look that conservative, and I just wondered what it is about him that you think they don't really, why there's been such an effort to not have him be there.
I think they think he's a leak. He goes all the way back to Vince Foster, interviewing people who were there the night of, by the National Park Service, intimidating witnesses. So they think he's one of the compromised in far as DC goes. He's now they have questions about him, and they're going to get rid of him. And Sheldon Whitehouse will initiate, my prediction, senator from Rhode Island, I believe, or Connecticut, I can't remember which, I think it's Rhode Island, will initiate an investigation of him, and he will be removed as the swing vote.
So you think that he's the person who leaked the information? Who leaked the memo?
I think they think he's a leak. I don't think he's the leak. He had a very checkered history when he was going when he was in college, going from Ivy League school to Ivy League school. They had these kids, these Potomac, Maryland kids that were having these, outrageous parties. And it's going to be, if it hits the Senate floor with Julie Swetnick testifying, you're going to see everything. It's going to be worse than Clarence Thomas.
But has that ever been done to a Supreme Court justice?
Clarence Thomas.
Yep. But that was on his confirmation hearing. He wasn't in order to do something about a sitting Supreme Court justice, you have to impeach them, don't you?
You can, and they will.
Do you think this is like an all-out, no holds barred rush to get literally everyone vaccinated? Do you think that they've looked? Let's say that it is like the bio-global elite, so it transcends like 4-year and 2-year and 6-year elections. Do you think they're looking at it as like, we have to get them on, that it's not your body, your choice? Is that too tinfoil?
No, I just think they think of him as a loose cannon, as somebody.
Not that. I mean, Roe v. Wade. Like right now, do you think they're going, hey, let's
Roe v. Wade
on?
Roe v. Wade is just to try to get people on the left excited about something other than the Ukraine war, because Azov Army is a bunch of Nazis with a bunch of human shields as kids, with kids and women, and and that's not a good story. So let's do Roe v. Wade.
It's like those chants in downtown New York the other day. They're chanting like Azov. And you can see there's like you can see there's not a lot of people because there are a lot of people who are going, wait, hold on, are we really doing this? Like, it doesn't have that visceral energy as like the 2020 riots, right? They need the true inner harpy demon in them you got to get the veins coming up on the neck. And that's what, within like 10 minutes last night, they were already screaming outside Supreme Court. They can't, or Azov doesn't get the blood boiling, right? You really got to have these people just screaming until their face turns purple.
So if we could do our due diligence here on the Duke Report with the Roe v. Wade story, we've got 3 stories on the Duke Report discussing Roe v. Wade today. We've got information liberation with Supreme Court has voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. Leaked draft opinion suggests. We've got Cheryl Atkinson, abortion developments all in one place, including original Roe v. Wade decision. And we've got Glenn Greenwald, the irrational, misguided discourse surrounding Supreme Court controversies such as Roe v. Wade. Maybe Peter, you want to dive into one of those 3? I've never heard of.
You've never heard of what?
All of them, really. I've heard of Glenn Greenwald. I haven't heard of Cheryl or Information Liberation. So.
Information Liberation is a great source, and Cheryl Atkinson was a famous CBS investigative reporter. I think she was CBS, and she was the one that famously was hacked, and then her television station didn't protect her. They didn't really care. I wanted to loop back to Tommy's comment, though, because it brings up something that I hadn't really thought of, and that is, there a lot of people when the vaccination mandates were arriving, were kind of punking. The people on the right were punking the people on the left by saying "my body, my choice."
Yeah.
Right. And Roe v. Wade is the thing that kind of is the shield of, or the legal shield of my body, my choice. It's the thing that they always hold up. And so, to Tommy's point, if the elimination of Roe v. Wade by the globo homo people who control the world, whatever you want to call them,
is a great name. I like that, actually.
What?
That was pretty good. I mean, globo homo.
Well, that's a 4chan.
Global homo cabal. I agree. That's
Yeah, my 4chan is showing. Then that winds up becoming a very interesting kind of conundrum, right, for a lot of people who have been against Roe versus Wade. But if Roe versus Wade is actually the precedent, for example, for throwing out vaccine mandates or something, then you wind up having this kind of political Gordian knot, right? Where you've got all of these different conflicting points of view that are all kind of like tangled together. So it's an interesting idea that you brought up, Tommy. That this may not necessarily be really about abortion as much as it's about vaccines.
It might. I want to say, the Duke Report kind of reminds me of like what Reddit once was. Like you go to it and actually find cool shit from Reddit. I mean, like 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
It actually would log in at lunch in high school and just surf through Reddit. And I always thought it was so great versus now just the circle jerk propaganda shithole that it is. So props Duke Report.
Well, thanks. I mean, like I said, it just really started out as a way for Carrie and I to keep track of what's going on. And then we thought, well, we might as well just make it available for everybody. So
hell yeah.
That's the deal.
Hey, George, I was going to say, can you enlighten me on, I saw on your Twitter, a Canadian general was arrested by Russia. Why is that not like front page news?
Well, it's all sources from RT and Sputnik and stuff, and so everybody thinks it's disinformation, and I kind of have that. I want to touch it with like a 10-foot pole, and poke it a little bit before I. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just going to play it on graphics. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to inhale the story yet because I don't understand, why this guy who was a general and then he gets out of the service, and then all of a sudden he shows up in Azovstal, and he really doesn't have any background in bioagents. And what I'm looking for in Azovstal, this kind of bunker, this hideout, this kind of Führer bunker, I'm looking for somebody who's running the ethnic cleansing of Donbass. And to me, if I don't find the guy who's ethnically cleansing Donbass, I'm not really interested. And this guy doesn't have that background. This Heinz Feldman that I've been following a long time, and great research by Mark Kulak and stuff, has followed the scientist Heinz Feldman. There's another second Heinz Feldman. So there's Heinz, the NATO general, who's kind of had a checkered history with bioagents. So this is a mixed story. And when I saw this Cartier guy being put out, I said, wait a minute, is this kind of like red meat that they're throwing out for the people who don't do their fact checking? And so that's why I've kind of laid off this Cartier story. But you're right, Tommy. There are people emerging every day from this Führer bunker in Azovstal, this neo-Nazi Führer bunker. So we'll see.
Could you also touch on the thing you tweeted about those nuclear reactors, I think, in Ontario? Is that related to any of this, or is that something completely
No, it's just, I talked to a long time ago this guy named Bill Taylor, or his nephew or brother or something. And it turned out Bill Taylor, the ambassador who was behind the Trump impeachment, his father was a big expert in portable nuclear power plants, like something that you could deliver even from a helicopter, and out of Fort Belvoir. And, these new reactors they're talking about spreading and sprinkling all over Canada, kind of fit the bill. You got Bill Gates, involved. And it's just one of those kind of Klaus Schwabian things where you go, is this the green agenda? Is this why they want to shut down the coal plants? Because they've cornered the market on fissionable fuel, and this is kind of like the next shoe to drop. So, yeah.
Well, George, while we're diving into your information, it actually is your Substack that links on the Duke Report, not your Twitter. But I want to get back over to the Duke Report and dive into your Substack. And I think it's 3 or 4 days old, the most recent one on there. But I have heard that certain journalists have been known to call the editor of the Duke Report and say, Peter, please put me to the top. So on your next Substack, we can call. A secret phone line where you can, say, I need the top story today.
Well, it's funny that you say that. I do at least once a day. I try to go through and move whatever's new up to the top. And like I said, if I had the development dollars, I would have that all automated, and it would all be doing it automatically. But generally, you'll see Mark Crispin Miller up at the top of the Duke Report a lot, because that guy posts sometimes 3 times a day, and he writes a lot. So the key to the whole thing is I just try to keep it fresh. So if somebody like John Derbyshire does a podcast every Friday, he's been doing it every Friday for 15 years, called Radio Derb, and on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning, I'll push John Derbyshire up to the top of the right-hand column. And after a day or two, I'll move him down again. I'll find somebody who's got something newer, and I'll put it up at the top, because, not everybody comes to the Duke Report every day, but I like to kind of service the people who do come. And so I'll wind up, pushing as much new stuff as you want. So George and I have talked about this. George knows that he could game the Duke Report if he just started posting.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, there you go.
If he just started posting stuff all of the time on that Substack, it would go up there, or any other publishing platform that has RSS. The thing is about Twitter is that, and there are Twitter aggregators. I suppose I could probably build a twitter.thedukereport.com and kind of aggregate Twitter feeds also. But that seems to be something that people who are on Twitter can do with lists. So
Well, Tommy, too, next time you have Dr. Robert Malone on, Tommy, make sure you let Peter know so he can get you on the top of the Duke Report, right?
I'll spam it.
Well, Dr. Malone, Peter McCullough, and Dr. Cottrell. I got all the doctors down there, and Children's Health Defense. They're down there in a little block of their own. Lower right-hand corner, or actually, I don't know how low it is. Halfway down on the right side.
Do you think, kind of on the note earlier of Roe v. Wade and actually using it to kind of to bum rush through with vaccines, do you think that's what they're doing with Elon? Do you think it's kind of controlled opposition, and when everyone's going to cheer for like free speech, like Spaceman, Rocket Man, Meme Lord, and really what it's going to be is because he's talked about how he wants everyone to be verified on Twitter so that there can't be like bot swarms? Is this just another backdoor for digital ID?
Well, in 2014, when Chuck Johnson was having problems with Twitter, and he was talking to Jack Dorsey about it, the suggestion that Chuck made that I thought was a good suggestion was that that you could pay to be verified, and that if you wanted to be anonymous, you could, but you'd have to pay for it. That is, if you wanted to have a free account on Twitter, that you'd have to use your real name. And if you wanted to be anonymous, that Twitter would facilitate anonymity, but you would have to pay for it. And that would eliminate like 99% of the troll accounts on Twitter. So, if what's his name? Sundance at The Last Refuge, he's famously anonymous, right? If he wants to maintain his anonymity, then he can pay $5 a month. And I think that would probably fix the discourse like overnight on Twitter. So I think that there are ideas out there that have been floating around for a long time about how to fix Twitter. It ultimately, though, it winds up becoming what's the problem that they're trying to solve. And I think that when you see things like the actions that Twitter have had, again, if you go to the lower right-hand corner of the Duke Report, there's an article that I wrote 15 years ago called The 7 Things That You Need to Know in Order to Make Your Creative Project a Success. George and I have talked about it for hours on different channels, and I've taken George through the process. But you can kind of use that as a rubric for looking at the way that people are looking at coming up with decisions, because ultimately what the 7 questions wind up becoming is the benchmarks that people use in order to make creative decisions. So the 7 things that you need to know are: what's the problem that you're trying to solve? How are you going to measure your success? And then positioning, which is for this audience, this thing is something that competes in this category that delivers a major benefit that as opposed to the competitor. So you got 7 kind of like touch points. And so you can look at companies and you can look at the decisions that they're making about things. And if you understand that they're trying to solve a problem and that they're measuring it, and that they are addressing a certain audience with a certain with something that's named a certain thing that operates in a certain category that has a certain major benefit that has certain competitors in the idea space, then you can kind of figure that out. So that's why I think that, when Twitter started, when the Section 230, bring it back to the beginning of the conversation, when Section 230 wasn't really addressed by the government in a way that you would think would be just kind of a duh moment, then you need to start kind of working backwards and trying to figure out, well, what are the heuristics that they're actually using? And people on the right, for whatever reason, whatever reason, they like to pretend like they're not jumping to conclusions about things. But the fact is that if you're using the rubric, you can kind of figure things out. And I don't know if I've answered your question or not, because I've spurred out into a bird walk.
Well, who wants to pick next from the DukeReport.com? We could do this all day, but we'll only do it for probably
Well,
30 minutes.
you know, I
George,
guess
yeah.
I guess my comment is I don't want to game the Duke Report. I want new journalists. I want new journalists, undiscovered journalists, great new talents to surface. I want the Tommy Carrigans and the Addie Adzes to bubble up. You know, I want new voices to be discovered. And I think one of the things Jack Dorsey said at Twitter before Musk, you know, this whole thing, was that centralization kind of, the way they ran it, defeated discovery. And tended toward clustering around the big stars. So if you were Ali, you know, at Ali, and you were one of the first, you know, names on the internet, you got a lot of traffic. But you weren't necessarily writing great think pieces. You were just posting a lot, and you had a great 3-letter early, you know, name. And so what I like about curation and curating by someone who's a thoughtful curator like Peter and producer Carrie is that you get this. It's not necessarily a totally blind curation, like, you know, we're going to promote everybody who's good, but at least it's some kind of way to beat the algorithm. You know, it's something.
And that's the entire point. Is that if people are depending on social media for getting recommendations, and the whole thing is gamed. There was a great video that was put up by Melissa Dykes last week. Her company, True Stream Media, is featured on the Duke Report. And it was talking, and she's talking about how the internet is shrinking. And what she means by that is that the algorithms are being tuned to the point where it's putting people into cul-de-sacs, and they're not getting the information that they need to get. And she kind of deep dives on that. And This is a Housing Crisis was something that we featured this week. Also, they are prolific. True Stream Media. They pump the videos out, and so it's the one on the far right there. Where did the rest of the internet go?
We'll get it up there, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get up there in a
the
second.
old ads here. I don't know that I'll play the sound. We'll just play the graphics. I'll show highlight the graphics here. Truth Stream Media, another one I didn't know.
Yeah, they have tons of incredible content. They just finished doing a 10-part, 10-hour series on basically the financial capture of Western civilization, going back a couple of hundred years, but really great information. They do really thoughtful, deep dive stuff, and it's really, really great to watch.
Cool.
So there's that. If you go back to the Duke Report for a second, and you go under books, you'll find out under books that the second link there under books.
Mm-hmm. In there here. Second link under books is
Tommy Carrigan.
There's Tommy Carrigan. Look at that.
Okay.
All right.
So Tommy wrote a book?
No, but these are Tommy's recommendations. So for people that are new to
nice.
Let's call it revisionist history that we're all living in. This is Tommy's recommended group of books. Yeah.
Have you interviewed Russ Baker, Tommy?
No, he will not respond to any emails. I've been harassing him for 2 years now.
Huh. Have you interviewed David Talbot?
None of these people will respond to me.
Okay.
Which sucks.
Plug it away, Tommy. One of these days,
I'll get them eventually.
These would all be great interviews.
No. Sorry, yeah.
They would. No, I'd happily interview them all.
Russ Baker knows Jack Deloria at Consortium News pretty good. And what's the second book there?
Tomorrow the World.
Birth of U.S. Global Supremacy.
Who wrote that?
Stephen Wertheim. It's kind of the idea that we all have this. I know, well, at least I did. Had an idea that we built up this massive war machine during World War II, and then afterwards, it was almost like we didn't know how to wind it down. And that, plus the rise of the Soviet Union, which kind of led to us building this military-industrial complex. And that book actually kind of lays out how, even before we got into the war, we were already kind of divvying up the world. We were just waiting for a reason to get in. And yet all these guys kind of approaching FDR, and they're, it's all the true believers. They're like, listen, in the way only like white guys in the 40s could say, they're like, listen, we have to like domesticate the savages around the world. Like we need American bases around the world. And it's less of a, we won World War II and had all this momentum and just kind of kept it going. And instead the take on it is like, no, like we decided that we were going to be the global hegemons during the war. And we were really kind of going back and forth, deciding whether or not it was beneficial to go intervene or just let them all kind of go at each other. It's the same history, just kind of a different angle. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and what's the fourth book?
Gangsters of
Back on the screen there, but Tommy, when are you going to write a book? Careful here, we'll have you writing a book here any day.
George is going to be my ghostwriter.
No, I'm going to be your ghost prodder.
No,
I made Eddie Ed's life miserable until he wrote a book, and then he wrote a second book.
You're going to be my ghost. You're going to write the Gangsters of Capitalism.
Yeah, Gangsters, Smedley Butler, the Marines, and the Making and Breaking of America's Empire, Jonathan M. Katz.
Yeah, it's not so much the breaking, it really is the construction of it. Whereas the plot to seize the White House was about how like the DuPonts, the Rockefellers, and a whole bunch of other rich guys tried to get Smedley Butler to use the disgruntled bonus army, a bunch of veterans from World War I who didn't get their bonuses. They wanted him to lead all of them on the White House, remove FDR. Smedley would be made the king of America and would act as a front man for this wealthy cabal. And in reality, they hated FDR because he was getting rid of the gold standard. That's about Smedley kind of later in life, and that's what everyone knows about him. Gangsters of Capitalism goes all the way back to like the turn of the century. And it really is beyond any shadow of a doubt, where it's like, we look at the Dulles brothers, we're like, the State Department, the CIA, the banking system. It's all just this revolving door of, hey, we got to have a war. And, what a coincidence. Like, America has interest there. Well, I guess while we're here, we might as well build factories. This brings it back 60 years prior. And it's like, no, dude. Like, back before, like, the Model Ts were even, like, shitting around New York City, it was the same things. We'd go somewhere, we'd be like, man, we would really like a factory there. And next thing you know, we just got to send in the Marines. Like, we have no other choice. And it's, hey, there's a lot of like rubber trees there. And it was like, you don't say. Well, we were just thinking about shelling this town anyway. And it was like, you go back and you're like, oh, dude, because when you hear like Eisenhower give the military industrial complex speech, you then go 28 years back and you see Smedley giving the same speech and you go, oh, it's older than I thought.
Well, I can go, when you're talking about marching on Washington, though, or taking over Washington, after Andrew Jackson won the Battle of New Orleans, Congress hadn't paid his army in 2 years. And he said, hey, the war is over. We need to go home now. And they weren't sending money. And so he decided that in order to keep his army from A, killing him, and B, rioting, that he would just start marching towards Washington, D.C. So he started marching the army in New Orleans towards Washington, D.C. And it was when he got to Georgia that he figured out that he could just give his army the land that had been promised to the Cherokee in Georgia. And
needs more fun. Pick up
kick the Cherokee out of Georgia. But this is the exact same scenario. The Congress hadn't paid the army, and if everybody in D.C. was going, what are we going to do if instead of crossing the Rubicon, he was going to go across the Potomac with his army, and they needed to take care of it. And so when he came up with this compromise solution, which was, I'm going to give my army the land that belongs to the Indians in Georgia that was promised to them by the United States Congress, the Congress said to the Cherokee, sorry about that. you're going to just have to give him the land. So
Yeah,
that was
it's
the way that ended.
yeah, and like, but it's like you keep going back farther, and you're like, well, who? It's almost like a Bible story, and it's like, this guy begat this guy begat that. You keep going back. You're like, oh, so the military. You go, oh, it started with JFK's assassination. Well, no. Eisenhower gave the speech 3 years prior. Oh, so it started there. No, Smedley gave the Wars of Racket speech 27 years before that. Oh, so it started in 1933. Well, no, it was kind of like the Zimmerman telegram. We kind of got ourselves. Oh, so no. Oh, no, actually, no. It was the USS Maine being blown up in 1898. Oh, so that's actually, it was like 15 years before that. And then you go back to that, and then they're like, those guys in the 1880s are telling stories about, like, listen, you and I both know bankers have run this place for the last century. And you're like, how? It just from the ground, and I said this to Dr. Malone on our podcast. I said, it's a lot like if you had like a security camera in your own house or your own apartment. And like you came home from work one day and like all the pillows were shredded. And you looked at the security camera and you saw that it was the cat. It doesn't bring the pillows back. It doesn't make the cat any more disciplined. And it really doesn't make the situation any better. But at least you know now what happened. And there's something there. So if you read those 5 books, it doesn't make the situation better. You can't go back in time. You realize that the demons have the world by the balls. But now you know? I mean, I don't know. It's like Dick Cheney sitting you down and going, listen, we had to do 9/11. And you're like, well, now there's no doubt. It doesn't make my Tuesday any better.
Yeah, and frankly, that's one of the issues that producer Carrie and I were talking about this weekend about the Duke Report. We were trying to figure out, is the Duke Report too depressing? It's like we've got some comedians over on the right side there, and you've got a great sense of humor, but a lot of this stuff is like it really is a big black pill.
No, it's not. I would say George's Twitter and the Duke Report. It's kind of like, when like the family's not home and they just don't want to deal with kids. They just put out the bucket of candy on Halloween and they say, take one. You guys are just putting out a bucket of red pills. Listen, if you take handfuls and get sick, if you eat all the Reese's in one night and puke, that's on you, kid. You just learned a hard lesson in responsibility. If you try to take down the entire history of the intelligence apparatus in one go, you're going to crawl into a bottle and drink yourself stupid. Take it. Read one of them, and then just go watch the Kardashians for a month. Let your brain level out again, and then take another red pill. But you can't drink all the alcohol in one night. You can't take all the red pills in one night. If you go through all of George's Twitter and all of the Duke Report in one evening, yeah, you're going to go into Comet Pizza with a machine gun thinking that you're saving like the babies from the tunnels. But you got to just baby steps. Baby steps, You can't
That's
go
Jack
straight to fentanyl.
Versovic.
Yeah.
That's Jack Versovic's story, by the way.
Oh, really?
I met Tim Alipanis. I thought he was the brother of the other Alipanis who was doing a universal vaccine. But there is the comedy stylings of Tommy Carrigan. And, oh, by the way, I believe that this is tremendously empowering. And this is beating the deep state without really trying. That's what I want to call my blog, is kicking the deep state's ass without really putting a lot of effort into it, So there's your ray of hope, Peter. How to beat this deep state without really trying.
Well, the Duke Report is an essential tool in that fight against the deep state. I thought we might have time for one more story, but maybe we should just do shirts, Peter, because I think the shirts are more important and cooler. And I was going to say, people have been giving me a hard time about my wardrobe. It's always a busy day. If anyone out there would like to donate a bundle of Duke Report shirts to the studio here, and that could kind of be like our uniform, so we don't have to think about it. It's just like, all right,
there you go.
Here, put a Duke Report shirt on.
You are now seeing what we were just rallying against. You're seeing the very birth of the revolving door. Whether it happens with Congress in 1880 or now on this podcast, you're seeing the people at the top going, we'll buy the Duke Report shirts. You keep shilling our work. This is how the military-industrial complex gets started. It starts with Duke Report hoodies. It ends with us raping all of Africa. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Okay, well, if you don't want to buy a shirt, just buy me a coffee.
Or you can buy. I mean, I'm not trying to like shit on your business, or go buy a shirt.
I think
What business? I don't see a business.
Well, if somebody will buy me a hoodie, I need a new hoodie. A Duke Report hoodie, I'll wear it.
It would be nice if it was a business. Yes, it would be. Yeah, somebody buy Aaron a hoodie. That would be great. Yeah,
That would be great for sure. But you
We'll
got the
leave it at
hoodies
that.
here at the Duke Report. Tommy, you have hoodies too, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or was it? Didn't you?
no,
Yeah,
Tommy's got amazing stuff. Yeah.
I designed all my stuff. I think my store's, ironically enough, it's been up for like 4 years. And after we did our last podcast, Shopify froze it. And I think they said I violated some. I don't think it was the podcast. I think it was the Mine Snuggles hoodie I made. It was supposed to be a take on like Mein Kampf, but instead of the eagle, it was a teddy bear. And it just said Mine Snuggles, and it was written in like that German. I think it was all the Nazis and everything. I should have pivoted and said it was about Azov. You can plug it. Hopefully, I'll be able to get it back up.
you said it was about Azov. You'd have tripled your sales.
That's all you had to do. Is just put the little blue and
Mine Azov.
mine Azov. It's yeah. George, where are you? Just curious.
I'm in Slovenia now. I was in Croatia earlier today, and I love border crossings, and getting my passport checked. And there's all sorts of trolls that say I'm a, whatever, and so it's always interesting when. But we're doing the thing.
Exhausted.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. I got a lot of great supporters. I did what Peter Duke told me to do, was publish my PayPal link, and I didn't even know what it was. So 6 years later, after doing this, I finally published a PayPal link, and it works. Peter, thank you.
Well, good. It's good. It's good.
And I here's why I think the Duke Report is a good kind of uniform for beating the deep state on like 6 minutes a day. I like these kind of like Tim Ferriss things where, like how to have absolutely amazing abs in 6 minutes. The 6 minute workout. You know who Tim Ferriss is?
Yeah, but
Tommy.
Yeah, but that sounds like you can't get abs in 6 minutes.
Well, I mean, Eddie has
You can be informed about today's news.
Yeah, but for every person who wishes they would, they'll send you $29. And
my point here is that kicking the deep state's ass in 6 minutes a day or less.
Yeah.
I like that. And the Duke Report is one of those kind of things where you go, look, I don't have time to like red pill you. Okay. I'm just getting you a coffee. You just came into my coffee place. I don't have time to red pill you, but I have this shirt that says the Duke Report. Okay. And if I'm giving you hints here, bro, if you don't pick up what I'm putting down, I'm not going to be, like dragging your ass over the line here.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, one of the things that's a great utility about it is that I don't spend a lot of time explaining things to people anymore. I tell them that I built a website. If you want to find out what's going on, here it is. I'm not going to force you to go look at it. But if you're getting your news from CNN or Fox News, you don't know what's going on. And if you want to know what's going on, go look at the Duke Report. And pick any story. I don't care which one you pick.
Maybe we should stop trying to act like we're better than the deep state and instead just start campaigning that we should be the deep state. Like, stop trying to be above it and be like, listen, we will institute such a better global dictatorship than this. We will put so many more Uyghurs in concentration camps. You won't even know it hit you. We will censor there will be no internet, daily EMP blasts, vaccines every morning, everything. You have to get abortions, but at the same time, you go to jail for not just pure hyper-normalization. It just dial it up to 12.
Henry Kissinger is very frustrated with his current team. I'm sure he's looking for replacements.
With a deeper state.
So, we'll see.
The deeper state. Tommy George.
that would be like that's. Well, I think that what you're describing is probably the only direction that comedy can go in right now. Right? It's like after you've got the Harry Potter dancing director of disinformation.
Yeah.
Singing and dancing, like the only thing that you can really do is kind of like figure out how you double down on that, right?
In a way, it's kind of how we won World War II. Like, if you really want to walk this out, like, we'll just do the most evil thing we can. We'll vaporize a whole city. Like, talk about wonder weapons. Like, we'll dial it up a notch. Like, this is going to be wonderful. Like, the land of the rising sun, we literally did a second rising sun. And then we did it twice. Like, maybe you just got to dial it up to 11. Be like,
thank you.
Well, let's start with
any more comments? Yeah.
I was going to say, before we go all the way to 11, please just buy a Duke Report t-shirt and wear it to your local coffee shop and see if people get the hint. And if they don't get the hint within 1 week, then we dial this shit up to 11.
We'll dial it up. I think our slogan should be "No body, no choice," and that's our depopulation campaign. Everybody's happy. No taxes, no censorship, because no carbon footprint, zero. Everybody is happy. Nobody.
Give me half an hour, and there's going to be a no body, no choice t-shirt.
No body, no choice. That means no Republicans. You'll be happy. Nobody on welfare. No more abortions. No more censorship. Liberals, you'll be happy. There will be no more, forced births. There'll be no more discrimination. There can't be racism. There can't be inner city disparities. No body, no choice, no carbon footprint. That's our campaign, the deeper state.
Done.
The deeper state.
Peter, before we let you, we'll give you the final word here, Peter, on the Duke Report today. Just two great Duke Report contributors with George and Tommy riding along. Of course, you can find their stuff on the Duke Report. Maybe I'll play us out with George's Twitter, his most recent Twitter from Croatia, so I'll play us out with that. But if you... any final remarks? I mean, I guess, we've had a lot of final remarks. Or we could let Tommy, remarks close us out, of course, right? But here are the shirts. Somebody please buy me a shirt. I will wear it as a uniform so that I can, not get yelled at about my wardrobe here in the studio anymore. And
Nobody.
Peter, what do you think?
I'm speechless. Like,
Awesome.
I'm going to tell everybody what I always say when I'm signing out, which is go old school, bookmark this thing and share it with your friends, because social media is all about censorship. And if you're not spreading this information through your own personal network, it's probably not going to get out there. So that's my message.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. We'll see Peter Thursday. Again, he's Tuesdays and Thursdays, the Duke Report at 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. And we're going to play George Webb's most recent Twitter video from Croatia here on the way out. And thank you, Tommy. Thank you, George. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Aaron.
Okay, we're in the little village.
Nobody, no choice.
And you can see that when Tito falls after the Soviet Union, that's when the pizza cutting of Yugoslavia starts. NATO sponsored, obviously a big sponsor of Russia, right? Strong relationship with Russia. We'll cut the top of Serbia off. We'll cut the bottom off. Vojvodina off the top. Kosovo off the bottom. The Croats start the war with the Slovenians, the first breakaway republic. Then we have the 9/11 hijacker crew, the Mujahideen, right? Same people that worked all the way back with Osama bin Laden back in Afghanistan. Those guys, the Kofar Black guys, right? Zbigniew Brzezinski guys, Kofar Black guys, come here and start doing attacks on Milosevic to try to encourage a war. And then Srebrenica happens after that. So not saying Srebrenica didn't happen, but it happened after these 9/11 guys. We don't know their history. Who gave them the KL-43s? Remember, Ali North had the KL-43. Who was his boss? Al Haig. Al Haig with Iran-Contra, KL-43s. That was the laptop. What did they move to in 1999 when they went to Kosovo? The BlackBerry. You follow the devices, it unwinds history. It unwinds NATO's activities. It unwinds history. All the way till now. All the way to Hunter Biden and Cooper Black and Burisma and Kolomoisky now. The bioagents now. All the way through the last 40 years, if you just follow the KL-43s until they cut over to the BlackBerries, and then the BlackBerries tell the story until they move to the green zone phones right now.